Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first of our Countdown to the Fintech Talents Festival interviews. I'm Lisa Moyle, Director of Strategy at VC Innovations, and I am delighted and very fortunate to be joined by John Salter, Chief Customer Officer at ClearBank. Hello, John.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for joining us. John, I always like to start these interviews with you telling us a little bit about you and your role at ClearBank.
Yeah, sure. So I probably have the best job in the bank. So as CCO, I'm responsible for all our clients, both the existing clients and our new clients. So I spend a lot of time in front of clients helping them solve problems, which I thoroughly enjoy. And then the second part of my role is really managing that message to the market, which is leading our marketing team and looking at things like this, sponsorship and corporate events, and even in the good old days of a bit of corporate hospitality. So I managed to have a lot of fun with a lot of clients.
Good. Well, it sounds not just that you're a great fit for ClearBank, but also the Fintech Talents Festival. So digging in a little bit deeper, you've had a very long career in banking and technology, including time at some of the big incumbents. How do you view the threats to their businesses from new entrants? And do you think in response to that they've made some significant changes in recent years?
Yeah, great question. I think first and foremost, I think the threats are very real. And I think they're well understood and recognised at the larger banks. Effectively, you could describe it as a bit of a technology arms race that's going on. But knowing all about it and being able to do something about it are always very different things. And I think that starts to become the challenge for some of the more traditional, what if you want to call them old-fashioned banks. We've certainly seen responses from some of the more traditional banks in the last few years. We've seen them launching new challenger brands, those challenger brands having stripped down propositions which are a bit more niche but a bit more interesting, and generally launching new products. And we've also seen several of them engage more visibly with some of the core banking providers and the more interesting core banking providers, trying to find ways to get upgrades into their systems and maybe getting their core banking systems much more closely aligned to cloud technologies. But overall, I think they're still in a tough spot. I think why? Because of the technology drag that they've got from their historic investments. Most of the traditional banks have huge IT estates, often most of it physically on-prem, physically located, not in the cloud. And typically these things are 20, 30, even 40 years of age. So they're very hard to maintain, never mind upgrade. What this results in is a really complicated IT structure and landscape. And to fix it, I think represents a massive change program, probably multi-year, just to replace and upgrade. And bottom line, that requires significant budgets. And right now, that seems a tough place to be. So I think they know what's going on, but as I say, I think it's quite hard to fix.
Yeah, and I think that leads really well onto my next question. When you think about, those kind of technology deficits that you described. So ClearBank will be joining us at the festival to speak on the embedded finance stage. And, picking up on some of what you just said and thinking about embedded finance, do you think that this is perhaps, the real Kodak moment for banks where they lose that all-important connection to the customer? Or do you think that this might well be an opportunity for, some of the banks that we were just discussing?
Yeah, I think change is always an opportunity. There's always threats and opportunities from change, but when you reflect on it, or I certainly reflect on it, I think it's probably more of a problem than an opportunity for more established traditional banks. And the reason behind that is, if you think about embedded finance, it's about putting traditionally manufactured products from traditional banks into the hands of non-banks. And usually these non-banks have as big, if not better brands, certainly stronger brand loyalty, and they tend to be technology-led. So they're very much at the cutting edge of technology. So banks need to really figure out their strategy around how do you support those industries going forward? How do you support that segment? And there are probably two things that are true on that. One, if you're going to support it, you're going to see margin pressure because effectively you're getting more entrants into the market. And secondly, going back to my earlier point, you're going to be talking about technology. they're going to have to find a way to interface with these providers at a speed and a scale that they probably don't do today. And with that legacy technology drag, that's going to be a real challenge. So I think there's a bit of a conundrum forming here, because if the traditional banks find a way to successfully support the sector, then you start to think about what that might look like at an investment committee. And it's not hard to paint the picture of them having to go to an investment committee asking for significant investment and a multi-change project to invest in a declining margin product to support competitors, and those competitors will by definition be causing attrition in traditional channels. That's a conundrum. That feels a little bit like turkeys voting for Christmas. So yeah. I think that's a real challenge for them.
Yeah, thanks for that. You laid that challenge and perhaps a hint of an opportunity out really well for us. And John, I had one final question for you, which, for some of us might be considered just as important. ClearBank's powering the craft beer bar at the festival. So the question for you is, are you a bitter, lager, or an IPA man?
Wow, that's really what I mean by having fun, right? The chance to sponsor a beer stand is fantastic. So I'm an IPA guy. I've inherited that. So my children went to university in Sheffield, and we spent some time in Bakewell, where they invented the Bakewell tart. Well, the other thing they're famous for is a brewery called Thornbridge Brewery. And we did the tour, and I fell in love with their IPAs. They have several, but I have a monthly order delivered for one of their IPAs called Green Mountain, and I would strongly recommend it to anybody. It's really good.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And a beer recommendation is always very welcome. So thank you so much, John, for taking the time to join us. Thank you to ClearBank for powering that craft beer bar. And we look forward to seeing everyone watching at the festival this 15th and 16th of November at the brewery, perhaps aptly named for the venue, in November. So thank you again.
Absolute pleasure. See you there.
See you there.